Hi everyone, I hope that everyone is doing well and is having a good week and a good semester. If you have 15-week courses this term, you should be right around week 13, so things are starting to wrap up. If you have other 7-week courses, and obviously this is a 7-week course, we are on week 5. That means that we are starting to wrap things up. We're thinking about our final research papers and doing everything else that needs to be done. This should be a fun week in Journeys in Fiction. We will be reading and thinking about 2 main stories. The first is by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It is a Sherlock Holmes story, and it is titled, just to make sure I get this correct, The Adventure of the Copper Beeches. And then the second story is by Edgar Allan Poe, and it is titled The Cask of Amontillado. So in this video, I want to talk pretty quickly about how these 2 stories compare to each other. And as you read on your own, I want you to think quite a bit about the similarities and the differences between these 2 stories, and also between these stories and what we've already read in the course. Alright, the first story is by Arthur Conan Doyle. It is a Sherlock Holmes story. So you may have read other Sherlock Holmes stories. You may have read this one. You may have watched one of the many movie adaptations and TV adaptations. So the Adventure of the Copper Beeches is going to be our example of detective fiction. Now, this is the basic structure of a Sherlock Holmes story as Doyle wrote it. Alright, so we get to watch the story happen through Watson. It is written in the first person from Watson's perspective. We essentially watch Watson watching Sherlock Holmes as Holmes figures things out and figures out the puzzle. So Doyle will play with what kind of evidence, what kind of information is given to us, what kind of information is withheld from us, and what kind of information is just is gradually revealed to us as the story goes along. So basically, the Sherlock Holmes story is focusing on how Holmes is figuring out a particular puzzle. The puzzle here is that essentially a woman has come to Sherlock Holmes because she has been offered a job. This job is to work as a governess, which is basically a teacher, in a mansion. This is this mansion is at the Copper Beeches. So she is trying to figure out if she should take it. All right, and as you read through the story, she's kind of rightfully hesitant. She's trying to figure out if that's a good job, how creeper-ish the owners are, and Holmes will try to figure that out, and Watson will try to figure it out along with him. Now, that is story number 1. The second story is the Cask of Amontillado. Some of us may have read this before or may have heard of it before. Now, this is going to move us away from detective fiction and more towards suspense and horror. All right, so the Holmes story is again about Watson watching Holmes figure things out. Now, the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe will feel quite a bit different. This is also written in the first person, but it is from the perspective of someone who is doing something. And so the story will play with whether we can figure out what he's doing and why he is doing it. So, in many ways, the Cask of Amontillado will put you in the perspective of a detective trying to figure something out. We get to use evidence, we get to observe the main character as he does certain things. Now, the main difference is, and this is the unsettling part, we as readers cannot step in. We cannot take the place of a detective like Sherlock Holmes who can bring others to justice. For the Cask of Amontillado, we can only watch, observe, and figure out. We cannot intervene. All right, so those are some of the similarities and differences just to set the stage for you. You can think more about how these two stories compare to each other. You can also, if you would like, in the discussion boards or in your journal entries, bring other stories into the conversation. There are lots of interesting connections to make between these two stories and A Rose for Emily, for example, and various other examples of stories that we have encountered. All right, great. I hope you enjoy the lectures and the reading. If anything comes up, if you are stumped at all for any reason, please feel free to reach out to me and we'll figure it out.